Welcome everyone to Backcountry Live. Today we're going to talk about what you need to know before you go heliboarding or heliskiing.
Welcome back, guys. It's Aaron, Sam, and Rich with Backcountry Live. Richard's been our point guy in booking these trips and researching these. We've all learned a ton, but Richard's going to talk about some of the most important things that we've learned when booking a heliboarding trip.
Yeah, so when we first started looking at doing a heliboarding trip, we knew nothing. And I didn't know anybody that had gone heliboarding. So it's like I had no resources to help me. So I just went online and started looking. And there's not a lot of good resources, which is why we are doing these videos, because we've learned so much. So the first thing that is one of the most important things is fly rate. I didn't realize that, or I didn't think about that helicopters can't fly in inclement weather. So
Something about the government not letting them be dangerous.
I think they should still go up, right?
Yeah, they should. It's like, we signed a waiver, we'll die.
I'm cool. So most outfits, on average, only fly 50 to 60% of the time. And so 40 to 50% of the time, they're actually canceling. And you can go like a whole week where they cancel every single heli experience for that entire week. So the first trip that we tried to book was at Whistler.
Yeah, and so something to think about when we went to Whistler, they grounded us the whole time. It rained. So there's some questions surrounding that. Well, what happens now, right? It's grounded. So they'll actually give you your money back. But once they refund your money, you can also get back into the queue. And that means that you have to stay there longer and possibly or possibly not fly again. So
if the weather clears up.
Yeah, so you have to stay longer. But if not, they refund your money and you can just go home depressed like we did the first time we tried.
And we didn't book multiple days. We just went up basically on a weekend. It was the time we had. And when we found out we were grounded, it was like a Charlie Brown episode. I mean, we were just walking around like, wah, 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 you know what I mean? And that was really surprising to us, and it was super bummer.
Our one brother, our fourth man, actually that was the only trip he went on, and he never came back.
Yeah, it's like
So he's still in depression. He hasn't come out of that.
He hasn't broken out.
Such a bummer.
So that is something to take note of and be aware of and prepared to know that.
How do you prepare for that?
So the first thing that you can do is go to an outfit that you can drive to. Because if you get booked, you can just be like, hey, I'll just come back next weekend. And they'll be like, sweet, come back next weekend. It's a lot harder when you have flights. And so, you can't just move around flights as well.
Yeah, and then you could catch it on a powder day, a good powder day, easier because you can drive to it. Because okay, storm came through a day or two after, it's in the middle of the week, you can just go do that.
Yeah, if you're super flexible, one of the guys we rode with, that's what he does. A random dude we got stuck with one time because we had just us three, is he just books when they have openings and on good powder days. So he's just a local, and so it works out really well for him. So you can book like up to like 2 days in advance, but it's just a lot of times they're booked up. You just kind of have to play by ear. So that's one great way. Or you can just go to an outfit that has a high fly rate. So some of the outfits in interior BC have a much higher fly rate than a lot of the outfits in the Rocky Mountains.
BC, British Columbia.
Yeah, British Columbia.
How do you prepare for it? Well, one option is if you call and ask what their fly rate is and it's closer to 50%, then I would book multiple days. As many days as you can. That increases your chances of flying. If the heli outfit has a higher fly rate, you can probably risk booking less days, but book several days if you can.
The other thing to think about is also with this fly rate, there are times of the year or during the season that the fly rate's better or worse. So depending on the month also could equal better fly rates.
Yeah, end of February is typically the better time to go. Not only do you get a better fly rate, but avalanche danger is less and snowpack is higher. So that really is the sweet spot. So I think the second thing is you just need to go. You need to book it. I think for us, it's something we always dreamed about, but for some reason it never registered as being something that we could or would actually do. And then we kind of had a moment like, why not? We should just do this. And so you really need to get out and experience it. And I think we thought it was just for pros, right?
The stuff you see in like, Alaska, where it's just crazy gnarly and scary.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of imagine, like where you're literally jumping out of the helicopter, landing on the
They don't
hill.
let you do that.
It's like,
We asked.
Sam tried. But I think that's the biggest thing is you don't have to be crazy good. Now you do need backcountry experience. So if you've never had backcountry experience, I would suggest first try cat skiing or cat boarding, and then if that goes well and you feel comfortable with that, then go heli skiing, heliboarding.
So,
But if you do have backcountry experience and enjoy backcountry riding, you really need to plan and save up and book a trip. You can there's lots of outfits anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 for a day of heli skiing, and
How much for the cat skiing?
about $600. But like, don't tell my wife this, but it was like one of the best days of my life. That first time we actually went out to heli skiing, it was so awesome. The other thing to keep in mind, the third thing is safety. I felt like I was kind of, especially my wife probably more than me, was worried about safety, and they do a lot to keep you safe. They rarely have accidents.
It'd be bad for business.
It'd be bad for business. They do. They give you a transponder, avalanche transponder, shovels and probes. They actually do training with you.
That blows up to keep you afloat.
Yeah, the airbags.
The airbags. And they do a ton of training. And the training differs between each outfit, but every time we've gone, I've learned something new. So always pay attention to that. Super important.
the thing to know about the safety is if you're nervous about it, they have experienced riders and they take people up all the time, and they're not going to take you to places that are high likelihood of avalanche. There is avalanche danger anywhere you go, but they're super trained, and a lot of times a guide will go down in front of you if there's a high danger, and they'll kind of test out the snow. They'll even shovel it out and test it. So the point here is to know that safety is their top priority, and to have some confidence that you'll be protected as much as possible unless you're just being an idiot.
And the other thing to remember is when you're around the helicopter, take it nice and slow and easy. You're really excited. I was really excited for my very first time, and totally forgot what I was supposed to do. I was the doorman, and I got out and went around the front of the helicopter following the guide. That's a big no-no. But that's something to remember is just take your time, slow down. They'll tell you everything you need to do. They're really patient. The helicopter's fun too. It's fun to be around. They take you to some really cool terrain. They land on stuff. You're like, you want me to get out? Like we're on a 1,000-foot cliff? No. Actually, that happened in some stuff. But
it's awesome.
It's overall an awesome experience.
The fourth thing to know is helicopter size. We like having less people per helicopter, but I think ideally if you can fill up the helicopter with your group of guys, that is ideal. Now, we've actually never done that, and it's turned out to be a great experience, but that really is the ideal situation, is if you can fill up the helicopter with your group of guys that you know how good they are.
It also affects your experience. The more people in your group that you don't know what their level of riding is, it's going to affect how fast or how many runs you're getting in the day.
The fifth thing is gear.
Yeah, I would say bring the gear that you're used to. Unless you're just a hardcore park rider, you have a small, stiffer board, then your board that you're used to riding will probably be okay. Most of the places we've ridden so far have been steep enough that if you have experience riding in deep snow, you will be okay. The shorter your board is typically on a heavy or deep snow, you're going to have to ride your tail more depending on your board style, or your back leg's going to wear out quicker. Most riders have experienced this. If you're, intermediate, you'll know what we're talking about. So if you have a really short board because you're a park rider for whatever reason, maybe go rent a longer board. But typically speaking, we found that your gear that you're used to riding, stick with that, because that's what you're going to be comfortable with on the mountain.
Having a board that's either you can set back with your bindings to get that front end up, or having a powder board, that does help.
Yeah, I would just say get a fresh wax before you go. And that's going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah, and as far as like gear you're wearing, just make sure you have a good pair of goggles. I think that's key. And the other thing that you have to be aware of is your backpack is full of avalanche safety gear, so you don't have
which they give.
Yeah, which they give you, so you don't have to bring that. So you don't have much room in your backpack, and you cannot leave things in the helicopter. So if you're like, oh, I'm just going to layer, well, you can't really just leave it in the helicopter.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah, so make sure you have gear that is also waterproof. I mean, you know, our goal is always to buy the best gear you can afford, and I think that's great advice. If you can get Gore-Tex, do it, just because the layering is better, so you have a dry outer, but then layer. Then you can also then put in some more warmth, and it has a. You don't have to completely bundle up, because you get hot, and it's. Some of the helicopters actually have heat blowing in them, so you get hot in the helicopter, but you don't have any space, so you can't peel layers.
Yeah. What about helmets? Do you think you need helmets?
My wife says yes.
Yeah.
But I don't.
We'll say yes, but no. I mean, no. I mean, all the guides wore helmets. I mean, if for safety reasons, it's always smart, but it's not like they don't say, hey, you gotta have a helmet. So the gear they require you to have is they typically require you to have a beacon. They like you to use their beacons instead of you bringing your own. If you have your own, they'll expect it and make sure it's up to par. And same with like a airbag or something like that. But they provide you with that, all of the gear you need for safety, and with the beacon as well. So
definitely. So the sixth and last point that you should be aware of is geography. I think we had it in our mind that you should go heliboarding. It doesn't really matter where you go, and it does matter a lot. So like our experience with Whistler that we keep bringing up is we were right on the coast, and so it ended up raining. And so
the snowpack's going to be heavier, denser, probably not as fluffy powder that we get back here in the western United States. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, and so like Alaska is actually a different snow type that allows you to ride crazy stuff.
Really
so
steep stuff,
really
right?
Steep because it's not as avalanche prone, but it can be concrete and harder. You're not going to get as much epic powder as often. Whereas like in Utah, Colorado, and the Rockies basically, or Wyoming, then you get some great powder, but avalanche danger can be high. Really what we've found the sweet spot as far as North America is interior British Columbia. It really is one of the premier places to go backcountry skiing. It just has everything right. So that's a great place to look into overall. And there's lots of outfits out there to look into, both from heliskiing and well as cat skiing.
So let's talk about lodging and travel now. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about how the proximity might be a big...
Yeah, so some of these outfits are out in the middle of nowhere. So there's some really cool places to go up in interior British Columbia, or even there's an outfit that I've wanted to try in Washington State, which I haven't even told you guys about, but it's difficult to get to. So you have to take that into consideration of planning your trip, is how difficult are these places to fly into if you're coming from a long distance.
Because that might increase the cost of flights and lodging, right?
Yeah, and the cost of flights and lodging, as well as the amount of time you have to take off work and be gone.
Awesome. Well, guys, those are our 6 tips on what you need to know before you book a heli trip. If there's other questions you have or think we haven't answered, comment below. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment on this video, hit the notifications button. Again, we want to answer questions. We have a lot more places that we want to visit and review for you in the future, so stay tuned, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Backcountry Live. Today we're going to talk about what to expect
when you're expecting.
Just kidding. Welcome everyone to Backcountry Live. Today we're going to talk about what to expect.
No, when you're expecting.